Hello, Amaka, my side chick. I have sent you 5 million naira in your OP account. Use it to buy anything you like.
Daddy, how can you be so rich yet we have no food at home?
You don't tell me what to do with my money, young man.
My husband, give me money to cook food.
Woman, stop disturbing me. I don't have any money to give you.
What kind of father lets his children sleep hungry while he counts money? What kind of man becomes rich in the village but poor inside his own home? This is the story of Chukwudi Okafor, a man who owned the biggest spare parts warehouse in Obinze, Owerri. People respected him. They admired him. They called him successful. But at home, his wife and 5 children were suffering. He spent millions on his side chick while his own children wore torn clothes. While money flowed into his hands, love drained out of his home. While he built wealth for himself, he destroyed the people who depended on him. Please watch this story till the very end because there's a lesson inside it that many people don't realize until it's too late. Please support me. I'm currently at 860 subscribers and my goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers so I can keep bringing you powerful stories like this. Kindly like this video, subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any new stories I'll be posting. Your support means more than you know. Thank you for being here. Once upon a time, in the bustling town of Obinze, Owerri, there lived a man named Chukwudi Okafor. He was the richest trader in the entire town, owning the largest motor spare parts warehouse anyone had ever seen. People came from far and wide just to visit his business. His warehouse was always full, neatly stacked shelves with brake pads, engine belts, shock absorbers and carburetors, trucks loaded with goods and customers waiting to buy from him. To the people of Obinze, Chukwudi was a man who had it all. They admired him, envied him and respected him. He had wealth, power and status. Everyone talked about his success and called him a man who knew how to make money. When Chukwudi walked through the market, men greeted him with deep bows. Women stepped aside and smiled. "Oga Chukwudi, good morning, sir," they would chorus. He wore the finest lace agbada, his wrist adorned with a thick gold chain that caught the sunlight. His shoes, always polished, clicked sharply on the ground as he moved. People whispered that he was the richest man in all of Obinze. Some even called him Mr. Money. But money, as the elders say, does not always bring wisdom. Despite all this wealth, Mr. Chukwudi Okafor never takes care of his wife and children. His wealth has done nothing for the people who mattered most. His wife, Neka, worked from sunrise to sunset just to keep the household together. Every morning, she swept the compound, fetched water from the distant stream, and prepared the little food she could manage for her 5 children. Her wrapper had faded and been patched in several places. Her slippers were held together with wire. Her hands were worn and rough from years of work, yet she never complained. Mr. Chukwudi Okafor and his wife Neka had 5 children, Chukwuebuka, Chiamaka, Emeka, Ifunanya, and little Somto, but he never cared for them. He often stated that when he was young, his father never took care of him and he had struggled to become the wealthy billionaire they knew today. Their clothes were torn, faded and patched over and over again. Chukwuebuka, the eldest, had a uniform with fraying collars and patched shoulders. Chiamaka's dress had tears along the hem. Emeka's shorts were stitched with safety pins, and little Somto's shoes had long lost their soles. Still, they carried themselves with pride. They never complained, even when their stomachs grumbled. They learned early to endure hunger quietly, leaning on one another for comfort. Every day, the children walked to school with their worn bags and old books. Teachers noticed them, especially Chukwuebuka. They spoke kindly about his intelligence and his determination to succeed despite the hardships at home. The children were polite, disciplined, and clever, but no praise, no kind word from teachers could replace the care they missed from their father. Meanwhile, Chukwudi Okafor went about his business with complete focus. He checked shipments, supervised workers, counted money, and ensured that every transaction ran smoothly. The warehouse overflowed with goods, each worth thousands of naira, yet none of it went to his family. While his children went to bed hungry, he slept comfortably after eating outside in a local restaurant, dreaming of profits and expansion. The contrast was painfully clear. Publicly, Chukwudi was respected, wealthy, and admired. Privately, his family struggled for the simplest things: food, clothes, and attention. Nneka tried her best, selling small items at the market and making tiny savings where she could, but it was never enough. The children often ate only white rice without stew, with water, shared in tiny portions to make it last. Yet, through the hunger and hardship, they grew close, supporting and comforting one another, learning patience and resilience. The people of Obinze sometimes gossiped about the trader and his family, how the family of the richest man in Obinze looked uncared for. But Mr. Chukwudi would always lie, saying, "I give my wife Nneka 5 million naira every month for upkeep, but I don't know what she's using it for." But no one has a full detailed truth about the reality. Life in the Okafor house was not easy. The children had learned to live with hunger quietly. Their stomachs often grumbled of hunger, but they never complained about not feeding well. Each day, the 5 children, Chukwuebuka, Chiamaka, Emeka, Ifunanya, and little Somto, found ways to care for one another, forming a bond stronger than hunger or poverty. Chukwuebuka, the eldest at 15, carried the weight of responsibility on his young shoulders. Every morning, he made sure his younger siblings were ready for school. He often skipped breakfast so the little ones could eat. Sometimes, he skipped school and went to a neighboring town to work on building construction sites, just to earn money to support his mother and younger siblings and to buy the books he needed for school. He dreamed of learning, of going beyond the village school, of making a life with knowledge and education. But he knew deep down that his father, Chukwudi Okafor, would never help him or support his education. Teachers admired Chukwuebuka for his intelligence and focus. Even without proper uniforms or books, he excelled in class, always curious and wanting to learn. And the teachers often wondered how such a young child could show so much resilience. But as the saying goes, education requires money. Chukwuebuka had not paid his school fees for the term, which would allow him to sit for the term exam with his mates. His mother could not raise the fee from her small vegetable business. Even the teachers warned him not to show up on the school premises again if he didn't pay his school fees. Being a confused teenager with no help, he summoned the courage to approach his father for money. One evening, Chukwuebuka approached his father about his school fees, which amounted to just 50,000 naira. His father scolded him. "Why go to school?" he said. "Look at me. I never went to school and I am the richest man in Obinze. Learn a trade, go and barboy. That is the way to succeed." Chukwuebuka's heart sank, but he did not argue. He knew his father would never change. Instead, he studied whenever he could, borrowing books and learning as much as possible at school. He refused to give up on his dream, even when the odds were against him. With the help of his maternal uncle, Nneka was able to raise 50,000 naira to pay for Chukwuebuka's school fees. He continued his education, returned to school, and wrote the term exam with his mates. The contrast between the children and their father was stark. Chukwudi Okafor cared only about his business and his wealth, while the children cared about each other and their future. Hunger became a teacher. Patience became a shield, and hope became their hidden treasure. Even in the quiet, hard days, the children found strength in each other. They endured, they laughed when they could, and they dreamt of a day when their father's wealth would no longer be useless to them. The struggle shaped them, made them brave, and taught them that true wealth was more than money. It was love, resilience, and the courage to keep dreaming. Chukwuebuka continued his education through struggle. He worked hard all through SS2, waking up before dawn to help his younger siblings, studying under the dim light of a kerosene lamp, and carrying the hopes of his family quietly on his shoulders. He knew the road ahead would be difficult, but he refused to let poverty steal his dreams. Eventually, he got to SS3, which is the final set for secondary education. And SS3 comes with lots of pressure, concentration, and monetary demand for WAEC examinations. Every day, he revised lessons in his worn-out books, memorized formulas, and wrote practice essays, even as his stomach grumbled with hunger. At school, teachers admired his focus and determination. They saw a boy who, despite his tattered uniform and patched shoes, carried himself with dignity and intelligence. They talked to one another about how bright he was and how he might one day make something of himself, far beyond Obinze. At home, however, life remained harsh. Chukwuede Okafor, his father, still refused to provide money for Chukwuebuka's WAEC registration. "Why waste money on school?" he said again to him one evening, waving his hand dismissively. "Learn trade. That is the way to succeed. Look at me. I never went to school and I became the richest man in Obinze. Stop chasing useless dreams and focus on real work." Chukwuebuka felt disappointed again, but he did not bother arguing. He knew arguing with his father was useless. Instead, he turned to Nneka, his mother, who had quietly been saving small amounts from selling her wrappers at the market. The tiny pile of naira she had managed to hide was all she had, but it was enough to register Chukwuebuka for WAEC. She handed him the money with trembling hands, saying, "Go, my son. Don't let anyone stop your dream. God will see you through." With his mother's support, Chukwuebuka completed his registration. He studied late into the night, sacrificing sleep for practice questions and revision. When the day of the WAEC exams finally came, he walked into the classroom with confidence, carrying not just his pens and papers, but the silent hopes of his siblings and the courage of his mother's faith. Months later, Chukwuebuka's results came out. He had performed exceptionally well. Every grade reflected his hard work and determination. Not stopping there, he also applied for the JAM exams, and again, his brilliance shone through. His results caught the attention of scholarship committees abroad. In a turn of fate, he earned a full scholarship to study at the University of Oxford, one of the most prestigious universities in the world. When he ran home to tell his mother, her eyes filled with tears of joy. "See, my son, see what faith and hard work can do," she whispered, hugging him tightly. For Chukwuebuka, it was the first real victory his family had tasted. But their joy was short-lived. When Chukwuede Okafor heard the news, he reacted with anger. "Oxford," he scoffed. "Why do you want to go abroad to study? You don't need school to make money. Learn trade like me. Stop chasing useless dreams. You are throwing your future away." His words were harsh, but Chukwuebuka refused to be swayed. Despite his father's anger, despite the empty bowls and worn-out clothes that had marked their childhood, Chukwuebuka's destiny was already designed. With his mother's blessing, he prepared to travel abroad. He left Obinze carrying his dreams in his heart and a quiet determination that no one, not even his father, could destroy. As the plane lifted off, taking him far from home, Chukwuebuka looked down at the village he had always known. He thought of his siblings, Chiamaka, Emeka, Ifunanya, and little Somto, and of the woman who had quietly made his dream possible. He knew that despite all the hardships, he was about to change not just his life, but the life of his entire family. Even though Chukwudi Okofor remained indifferent to his children's struggles, God's plan was already unfolding. Chukwuebuka's journey had just begun, and nothing could stop the brilliance and determination that had carried him this far. Even as Chukwuebuka left for Oxford, life at home remained difficult for his mother and siblings. Their father, Chukwudi, still managed the largest spare parts warehouse in Obinze. Business thrived, trucks came and went, containers filled the yard, and customers paid handsomely for engines, tires, and parts of all kinds. On the surface, he was the richest man in the village. People respected him, admired his success, and envied his wealth. But behind at home, the story was different. Chukwudi's heart and his money were not with the family who depended on him most. Instead, he poured his resources into his side chick Amaka. He bought her a house in one of the most expensive estates in Victoria Island and also a very expensive car. As if that's not even enough, every month he transferred up to 10 million naira to her account, covering rent, bills, shopping, and luxuries she never had to worry about. Mr. Chukwudi and Amaka would always travel for vacation, while his own wife, Inneka, and their children are left to fend for themselves. Inneka rose every morning to sweep the compound, bathe the kids, and prepare whatever small food she could manage. Her wrapper was faded and patched, and her hands bore the calluses of hard work. She sold small items at the market, wrappers, vegetables, and second-hand goods, just to buy rice and gari for her children. The children still wore clothes that had been washed so many times the fabric was thin and almost transparent. Hunger was a constant companion. Meanwhile, Chukwudi's attention was elsewhere. He ignored their hunger, their torn clothes, and the growing sadness in his household. He never questioned whether their children had eaten or if they were warm enough at night. He rarely asked about their school or their well-being. All his energy, all his wealth was channeled to his side chick Amaka, the woman who had no claim to the sacrifices he should have made for his own family. The contrast between the life he gave Amaka and the life his family endured was stark. Friends and villagers noticed the neglect. Some whispered when they passed the Okofor compound. Others shook their heads in disbelief at the young children who seemed to survive on scraps while their father was celebrated as a wealthy man. The villagers could not understand how a man with so much could leave his wife and children in such misery. Yet, Chukwudi continued, blind to the suffering he caused. He spent nights in beer parlors, drinking beer and eating pepper soup, planning more business deals and thinking of how to provide for Amaka's luxurious life. To the outside world, he was successful. To his family, he was absent, cold, and indifferent. Chukwudi Okafor's life continued in the same pattern. Every morning, he left his house early, drove past his hungry family, and focused only on his business and his secret life with Amaka. His warehouse in Obinze remained busy. Containers arrived, money flowed in, and just like before, he sent huge amounts to Amaka without blinking. His wife, Nneka, and the children were never in his thoughts. Then one morning, everything changed. Chukwudi was sitting in his office, checking inventory, when his phone rang. It was the shipping company he had worked with for years. At first, the voice on the line sounded tense. Then the words came out slowly, heavy and painful. "Am I speaking with Mr. Chukwudi?" He answered, "Yes, this is Chukwudi Itego, the money one of Obinze." Then the caller said, "Sir, we regret to inform you that one of our cargo ships had issues on the high seas and sank. 10 of his 40-foot containers loaded with motor spare parts, had sunk into the ocean during a storm. Engines, gearboxes, tires, and equipment worth a fortune were gone. More than 70% of his business capital had disappeared in one night. Chukwudi dropped the phone. His head spun, his chest tightened, his breathing became heavy. For the first time in his life, fear gripped him. He tried to stand, but his legs failed him. He clutched his chest and collapsed on the floor of his office. His workers rushed him to the hospital. Immediately he collapsed. After hours of doctors struggling to resuscitate him, they finally stabilized him. But the damage had already been done. The bad news he had heard earlier about his containers had affected his brain and caused a severe stroke. Half of his body became weak. He could barely speak. He could not walk. The man who once controlled millions could no longer lift his own hand. The news spread fast. Amaka heard the news that her sugar daddy was not feeling well and had been rushed to the hospital. She hurried there, thinking it was just a minor illness. But when she arrived, she learned what had happened to Mr. Chukwudi's goods, and how the man who had always funded her lifestyle was now bedridden after suffering a stroke. She then said to herself, "This man no go fit fund my lifestyle again, no. Make I better run for my life." She left. After that day, she never returned. The woman Chukwudi had spent millions on vanished the moment the money stopped flowing. Chukwudi lay in the hospital, staring at the ceiling, abandoned. When the hospital bills began to pile up, there was only one place left to turn: home. Nneka visited when she heard the news. She did not shout. She did not remind him of the years of hunger and pain. She did not curse him. She simply showed up. With her tired body and worn wrapper, she sat beside his bed and held his weak hand. Their children came too. Chiamaka wiped his face. Emeka helped carry water. Ifunanya sat quietly by the bed. Little Somto stared at his father with confusion, not understanding why the strong man he feared now looked so small and helpless. After he was discharged, they brought him home. The same house he had ignored. The same family he had neglected. Day after day, Nneka fed him, cleaned him, and helped him move. She used the little money she made from selling vegetables to buy medicine. The children helped however they could. No one complained. As Chukwudi lay on his mat, unable to move freely, he had time to think. He thought of the money he spent on Amaka. He thought of the empty pots in his house. He thought of his children wearing torn clothes. He thought of the son he chased away for choosing school. For the first time, Chukwudi Okafor saw his life clearly, and the weight of regret was heavier than the stroke that held his body down. Years passed quietly in the Okafor compound. Chukwudi remained on his bed, weak and dependent, unable to walk or walk. The once powerful trader who controlled warehouses and containers now relied on others for the smallest things. His speech was slow. His hands shook. His eyes carried stories of pain he could no longer hide. Every day, Nneka cared for him. She woke early, went to the market, sold vegetables under the hot sun, and returned home to feed him, clean him, and give him his medicine. The money she made was small, but she managed it carefully. She never complained. She never insulted him. She simply did what a wife and mother would do, even when her heart still carried old wounds. The children grew older. Chiamaka became stronger and more confident. Emeka helped his mother at the market. Ifunanya stayed close to Nneka, learning everything she could. Somto, once too young to understand hunger, now knew the meaning of struggle. One evening, while Nneka was arranging vegetables in the market, her phone rang. When she first checked her phone and saw a foreign number, she ignored the call, assuming it was scammers. But the same number kept calling over and over again. But something in her heart told her to answer. Then she picked the call. The first thing she heard was, "Hello, Mama?" Her knees went weak. It was Chukwuebuka, her son. She held the phone tightly as tears filled her eyes. His voice was calm and confident, very different from the hungry boy who once studied under a weak lamp. "Mama," he said gently, "I have finished my studies. I am now a certified medical doctor here in England." Nneka covered her mouth and cried. He told her he had built a life abroad. He told her he was doing well. And then he said the words she never expected to hear. "I am coming home." Few months later, Chukwuebuka came back to Nigeria. When he stepped into the compound, he saw everything clearly. The cracked walls, the quiet house, his father lying weak on the bed, thinner than he remembered. He listened as his mother told him the full story about the containers that sank, the stroke, and how Amaka disappeared the moment the money stopped. Chukwuebuka stood silently. He did not shout. He did not insult or blame his father. He simply nodded. That evening, he sat beside his father. Chukwudi tried to speak but struggled. His eyes were filled with shame. He looked at the son he once dismissed, the son who chose education, the son who now stood tall. I am sorry, my son, was wrong," Chukwudi whispered with effort. Chukwuebuka said nothing, because he had already made plans to take his mother and siblings back to England on sponsorship. He had never included his father in his plans because he did not know that his father had suffered a stroke. Some wounds were too deep for words. Within few months, arrangements were made. Chukwuebuka took Nneka, Chiamaka, Emeka, Ifunanya, and Somto with him to England. He enrolled the younger ones in school. He gave his mother rest, comfort, and peace she had never known. For the first time, they lived without fear of hunger or shame. Chukwudi was left behind in Obinze, alone. Neighbors checked on him from time to time, but the house was quiet. On his bed, he thought about everything he had lost. Not the money, not the containers, but his family. He remembered empty plates, torn clothes, a wife who begged silently, his own children whom he ignored. He remembered the son he tried to stop. Now, all he had was time. Time to regret, time to remember, time to understand. Chukwudi Okafo spent the rest of his years living with the truth he could no longer escape. That wealth means nothing if your family is broken. That money cannot replace love. That when you choose selfishness, the price will surely come. And in the end, the children he neglected rose above the pain, proving that integrity, patience, and perseverance always win, no matter how long it takes. In the end, Chukwudi Okafo learned the lesson too late. He spent years chasing money, power, and pride, believing wealth was measured by warehouses, containers, and bank alerts. While he built a name for himself in Obinze, his home fell apart quietly. His children grew up hungry, his wife suffered in silence, and the son he tried to stop became the very one who rose above it all. When sickness came, money could not save him. When everyone else walked away, it was the family he ignored that stayed. And when success finally returned to his house, it did not return through him. Chukwudi was left with regret, deep, heavy regret, knowing that wealth means nothing if your children are broken, your wife is exhausted, and your home is empty of love. This story reminds us that true success is not what people see outside. It is what happens inside your home. It is how your children sleep at night. It is whether your family feels safe, loved, and valued. Because money can be lost and earned again, but time, childhood, and family, once destroyed, can never be bought back. Let this be a warning, and let it be a lesson.